Welcome to the worst of the best podcast. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't freaking make it! So here's what you get. From Canada, Ryan and
Jason.
Welcome to another episode of the Worst of the Best podcast. I'm Ryan, and of course with me is my brother Jason. Jason, how you doing today?
Doing good. Happy to talk with you this week.
Yeah, we did a big episode last week, celebrity deaths. It was not a slog to get through, but it's rough to go through and talk about all these dead people, dead celebrities. It was fun. It turned out well, but I think this episode is a little bit lighter, a little bit more fun, kind of back to our regular programming, so to speak, with fun, light, interesting, odd, different lists and topics. But before we get into it, Jason, we got an email regarding our
Nice.
celebrity death. Well, we asked, did we forget anybody? And we did. You know, one person we did forget, I would have put on the list, but I can't believe I forgot this actress, Raquel Welch.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I
You know,
know who she is,
the screen bombshell, they call her. Yeah.
Yeah. The poster in Shawshank Cell, the
That's
Shawshank
right.
Redemption in the cell there.
Yeah, gorgeous actress, of course, in her day. Yeah, and that's a name I know and didn't have to Google to know who she is. And I don't know how I missed it. I remember seeing it, too, throughout the year. And then even when I compiled the list together, it's like, anyway, so my apologies to Raquel Welch and her family. She would have made the list, but she definitely would not have been the worst pick regardless. But rest in peace to Raquel. But this is from Doug Greenberg. He's a big fan of our show. He listens to every episode, which is great. Thanks, Doug, for your support. And he goes, Ryan and Jay, no notable deaths in November. How dare you? He says. So he starts off strong, comes off strong on us. We apologize, Doug. He says, on November 30th, we lost the great Shane McGowan. He'll go on to explain who it is. And so this is probably why he didn't make our list, Doug, because, of course, this is what we were asking people, like, if had you been on the show, who would you put on the list? Because it's all personal, right? Who is a celebrity to you might not be a celebrity to me. He said, on November 30th, we lost the great Shane McGowan. Now, I know Shane McGowan is not a household name in the giant pool of famous musicians, but he was an enormous loss for the music as a whole. He was the founder and lead singer of the Irish folk punk band, The Pogues. I've heard of the band. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And is, in my humble opinion, in the discussion of one of the greatest songwriters of all time. Irish born and raised in London, his songs tell tales of hanging out in the London ghetto, missing his Ireland home, and the European immigrants searching for a better life in America. Most of the Pogues' music didn't hit the mainstream here in the States because of the traditional Irish folk style, but it should have. Their song Fairy Tale of New York is my favorite Christmas song ever. Great job as always. I love your show, and I hope to guest host again one day. Doug, yeah, he's been on a couple of episodes back in the day, so Doug, we'd love to have you on for sure. We haven't done a 3-time guest host with Jason as a third person, have we? We should get Doug on or anyone else who would like to join us. We would love that. So if you're listening to the show and you think you have the podcasting chops to join us, and more specifically, if there's a topic you'd like to bring to the table, we would love to have you on. And I think Doug is such a person. So Doug, if you truly would like to come on the show and guest host with my brother and myself, we would love to have you on, but you need to come with a topic, come with a list, come with an idea, shoot me an email. All right. Anyone else do the same? The email is in the show notes. So we'd love to hear from you guys, and we appreciate the support.
And Ryan, let's be honest. Don't have the standards set so high. We do not have any podcasting chops.
No,
so if you don't trust me, you can. If I can do this, anybody can do this.
Oh, Jay, don't sell yourself short. You're great. You're great. We're great together. You're my brother. It doesn't matter. We're hanging out. That's why we do this. If anyone happens to listen to our hangout session, that's fine with me. Okay. Jay, what's your experience with basements?
Basements, that's the place where you would play with your toys, get out of your parents' hair, maybe do some. That's your place where you exercise. You have that kids' room where they can watch their movies and listen to their music without interference of parents. I mean, that's my recollection of basements for the most part.
Yeah, for kids, that was what we used it for. I remember I had my weight set down there as a teenager. Definitely our little movie room. That's where the laundry facilities usually are. Remember when we had that flood in the basement? Do you remember that flood?
Oh, yeah, I do actually, yes.
You know how I discovered that flood? I did the paper route as a kid, right? And I came home and I just walked down the stairs to the basement to get whatever. And I stepped into the water. Like I stepped into the, I was like, what? I think I was the discoverer of the flood.
Okay.
Oh boy, what a mess. Well, we survived it. It's odd to have your basement flood. It was like ankle deep. It was quite a bit of water, and it was the drain systems that backed up.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff, our belongings got damaged. I think some of Dad's records got damaged, if I remember correctly. Oof, it's too bad.
Water is insidious.
It does not, it's ruthless.
In a house, that and an infestation of any type. Those are the, water's number one, I think. And then rodents or ants or wasps eating into your walls, something like those are like their 1 and 2 usually.
Yeah, and Jason, you brought up some great different experiences people can have in the basement, from floods to insects and mold, and some good memories too with exercise equipment or movie watching. However, we are going to talk about 9 different things that people discovered in their basement, things that we did not.
Just wait. We can't go on without talking about that one room that we had growing up, that one basement room, the same place that we had the flood. Remember that room that was wall to wall, plastered in rock and roll, from Circus Magazine, Rip Magazine, Hit Parader Magazine, and all our favorite rockers and metal bands.
Awesome. It was awesome.
And that's
we covered every square inch.
Every square inch was covered with our favorite bands, like favorite rock stars.
I wish we took a photo.
Every magazine.
We never thought of taking a photo.
Wow.
No, we never thought of taking a photo. Well, yeah, we didn't have cell phones back then, obviously. So that was just back in the day where you didn't take pictures of everything. There was a time when that was the case. You just have it in your memory. So it's still in our memory, but I just kind of wish, if I could go back in time, there's so many things I would have taken photos of, but you just don't think you're going to care about when you're an adult. You just enjoy it when you're a kid. But.
And that was literally not a single piece of painted wall was exposed. It was all hard rock.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It was posters and magazine cutouts combined. Yeah. Thanks to our parents for letting us do that, for letting us be teenagers and having our rock and roll idols on the wall. So they let us have our own little boys' room down there, a little boys' cave. We weren't quite men yet, so it wasn't a man cave. It was a boys' cave. Okay. Yeah, fun little place, actually, that place there. Okay. But Jason and I and our brothers, we did not discover any of the things that these people discovered in their homes. We're going to go through 9 different things that people discovered. So as we just discussed, Jay, despite its potential for versatility, the basement often remains an overlooked area, prompting associated with eerie tales of lurking monsters waiting to strike. Do you ever think about that when you're a kid? The basement was a little bit scary. You turn off the light and you're like...
Yeah. You go down to do the laundry, right? You go down to do the laundry. You're like taking your life in your own hands.
It's funny. I've seen some fun Instagram videos of the shared experience. You turn off the light and you run up the stairs and that creature is chasing you, but it stops just at the door as you close it to your bedroom. It's funny how we all have that shared experience.
Yes, it's funny because we all can relate.
Why is that then? Why do we all have that? Is something in our evolution or DNA about the darkness and being chased? Maybe it's weird that we can watch those videos and everyone in the comments, and I love those comments where I guess we all have, none of us have unique experiences. We all have the same shared experience to a certain degree in life.
Yeah, that's true.
The reality of most basements is far less dramatic. They are often mundane spaces, occasionally doubling as spider's nests. However, hidden among the dull, some basements hold intriguing secrets left behind by previous occupants or other glimpses into times long gone. So Jason and I are going to explore 9 remarkable discoveries made by people in their basements. So number 9, Jay, a seemingly innocuous well might not evoke fear when situated in an open field. Have you ever seen a well in an open field, like an old farmer's well?
I don't think I ever have. No.
What an interesting concept back in the day. You know, the old West, they dug deep enough to get water underground. Like, that's pretty crazy. I don't know. It's weird that they're able to do that. And they did do that back in the day, and they just put that bucket down there and scoop up water and bring it back up.
Yeah.
That's odd to me. If the world depended on my knowledge of how to do things, I'd be dead so quickly. I wouldn't know how to dig a well, make a well. Anyways. So, Jason, we all know what a well is. However, the scenario takes a chilling turn when you envision a well in your basement. And not only that, you find yourself plummeting through the floorboards into its icy depths. This is precisely what happened to Christopher Town, a 67-year-old man who was helping a friend with furniture relocation in their kinetic home. And it was an older home, it was considered a historic home. As the floor unexpectedly gave way with a disconcerting crack, Christopher fell 30 feet into the darkness below. 30 feet, Jay.
Yeah, I've actually seen this story online. I've actually seen a video on this. It's very interesting.
He clung desperately to the rocky walls of the well, narrowly avoiding the threat of drowning until the rescue team arrived. Remarkably, this hidden well had once been situated, of course, outdoors. This was a common well that people used outdoors.
Yeah.
It was hidden with the house expansion, and it was only covered with a wooden flooring.
A man in Connecticut is lucky to be alive after surviving a bizarre fall. Listen to this. He was helping a friend move into a historic home in Guilford on Sunday when he tumbled through a floor. Instead of hitting a subfloor or a basement, the man plunged 30 feet into a well filled with water. He had to tread water for 25 minutes until rescuers pulled him out with ropes. Miraculously, he suffered minor injuries.
But isn't that crazy? Can you imagine the surprise and fear? You're just at a buddy's house. Hey, can you help me move a couch? And somehow, through whatever chain of events, they remove the flooring, and buddy falls 30 feet into a well. And can you imagine your fear and confusion combined with fear of what has happened?
30 feet is long enough for you to go, I'm not sure what's happening here. Like, it's not like if you fell through a normal floor, it'd be like 8 feet or 9 feet until you hit the.
Sure.
But 30 feet is 3 times that.
You're kind of wondering, am I going to hit something? What's happening?
Yeah, exactly. There's enough time to think.
But he hit water. Thankfully, there was still water in that well.
Yeah. Some ways hitting the water is actually better than probably hitting a basement floor.
Of course. Yeah. I'd rather hit 30 feet falling into water than 9 feet onto a hard concrete floor. Sure. But the fall would just be scarier, but the impact's lesser. That to me is insane. The circumstances that led up to that poor man, if you just think about all the different things, somebody built that well back in the 1800s. This well was built by Farmer Joe and his family. All right, there's sport. Let's build this well. And they built this well, provided water and sustenance to families for generations. But then eventually the 1980s rolled around and a house was expanded over the well. And then it became a trap for somebody. It's just odd that it went from providing nourishment, sustenance to a family to almost killing a man later, 100 years later. 200 years later.
Who in the 80s would expand a home over a well? You would have enough engineering thought to go, we should probably
put cement over it or something. Or
fill this hole up.
No, just in case we need water, maybe. I don't know. Emergency water source? Odd. Very
interesting.
Odd. Yeah, I love that one. That's an interesting one. Jay, what do you got for the next one?
The mysterious disappearance of George Carroll in 1961 haunted his son Michael for years. Various theories from buying cigarettes to a potential Korean lover circulated, leaving the family in the dark about his fate. The puzzle began to unravel when Michael purchased his childhood home. Driven by the need to uncover the truth, Michael explored unconventional avenues, consulting psychics and utilizing ground-penetrating radar. Eventually, the police were called in, and decades after George vanished, his skeletal remains were discovered in the Long Island basement. What added a sinister layer to this story was the revelation that George's skull exhibited signs of a blunt force trauma. With Michael's mother passing away in 1998, the completed narrative behind George Carroll's burial beneath the house may forever remain shrouded in mystery. Oh boy.
Their father disappeared nearly 60 years ago. And while the medical examiner still has to identify the bones, the family in Lake Grove say they believe they've been living with his remains all of these years.
Long Island reporter Kristen Thorne spoke with the family and is there tonight with more for us. Kristen?
Diana and Sade, George Carroll went missing in 1961, leaving behind his wife and 4 children, all under the age of 10. The kids were always told that their father went out to, quote, do something and just never came home, and they were told growing up to never ask about what really happened to their father. When their mother died in the 1990s, they became curious about what happened to their father, even consulting psychics and interviewing people who used to live in this neighborhood.
Some of us believe that we were, abandoned at one point, that this could mean something else, and that, he was always here. It's kind of comforting to think that.
Could Stephen Carroll's dad be the remains that have been found buried in the basement of the family's longtime home on Olive Street in Lake Grove? His brother, Michael Carroll, who now owns and lives in the home, believes it could be.
This is something as we grew up, we heard multiple stories.
In fact, Michael Carroll began excavating the basement 3 years ago looking for his father.
It became dangerous, all right? And where I was digging was actually going to destroy the house.
Carroll put the project on hold until recently when he hired someone who used ground-penetrating radar and pointed them to a possible spot in the basement. Carroll's 2 older sons have been digging for months, and then Tuesday night they found bones buried about 6 feet down, surrounded by cement walls.
Probably going to be my dad. Probably. I don't know that right now. If it is, all I can tell you is it's the happiest day of my life because I've always felt that he deserved better.
After all this time and the suspicions and, looking and trying to locate him after nearly 60 years, that the family can now, rest assured that we can give him a proper memorial and burial.
The Suffolk County Medical Examiner took the remains and is testing the DNA to determine if the remains are indeed that of George Carroll.
And if it is your father, you have no idea who may have done this?
I do.
Mike Carroll didn't want to expand upon that, only saying that the last person who probably knew what really happened to his father died about 3 months ago. Mike Carroll says a missing persons report was never filed for his father. He says his father was an Army veteran in the Korean War, and if the remains do turn out to be his father, they will have him buried at Calverton National Cemetery.
What are your thoughts? What do you think happened there, Jay?
The mom killed them.
The mom's boyfriend or something to that effect. So the mother said, don't ask questions. What a weird thing to say to your kids. Don't ask questions about what happened to your dad.
Never ask about it again.
Whether the mom did it or had help, yes, the mother knew about it. They talked about how they've talked to other witnesses and stories, and there's been rumor, things have circulated through the years in the neighborhood. The mother died in 1998, but the son there said that the last person who knew what happened died 3 months ago from that interview. So somebody else knew besides the mom.
When was that interview?
That was recently, 2021 or something, because they talked about it being 60 years or something. He was gone in 61. So he's a young father. Poor guy in his 20s. Gets killed.
Okay, the only reason I think it might be the mother, it was buried in the house.
Yep.
If it was somebody else, you would think they would move the body.
Right, get it out of the house.
Get it out of the house. The fact that it was dragged into the basement, some of these basements are gravelly basements, so they're not, floor isn't finished. It's more of a crawl space.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But she had help. She probably had help to bury the body because the other person died just a few months ago from the interview. Whoever helped her knew about it too. What's the old saying? Friend helps you move. A best friend helps you move bodies.
Is that the saying?
There is a saying. There's a saying. Well, no, a friend helps you move, but your best friend or whatever helps you move bodies. Yeah. I don't know. If you called me and said, Ryan, I need your help to move a body, you'd have to think about it. You're my brother. Okay, something must have happened.
But now implicating you into something.
That's the whole idea, is bringing somebody into this where it's kind of like blood over law, right? You're helping your loved one or close friend to, for all we know, the husband could have been abusive.
What I feel bad about is, or happy for the children, the sons, is that either if he was abusive or not, now know that they weren't abandoned.
That's right.
That to me is the silver lining in finding the body.
They were 10 and younger. So there's a kid who was at least 10 years old. So even the 10-year-old would have known some sort of memory of abuse. The fact that the sons there all seem to be on board with the fact that their dad, they really wanted to find him. Sounds like there wasn't stories of abuse, or else the kids would have been like, well, I guess you had to come into him or something to that effect. There was no indication. The sons seemed like they were really desperate to find him and put that to rest.
If anything, it sounds like the mother was abusive. The reason I say that is the dad's gone and she told everybody not to talk about it.
And then she doesn't file missing person.
Yeah.
Or anything. Interesting. Wow, that's a fun one. They're not all this fun, so I feel bad. That was probably the most blood whistle.
It's downhill from here.
It is downhill from here. Yeah, unfortunately, people might stop listening. All right, the next one is, this is an interesting one, though. This was actually a little bit sad. During a routine repair call in Lansing, Illinois, a technician had an unexpected encounter that went far beyond fixing faulty appliances. While exploring the basement, typically a domain of spiders and the occasional mouse, the repairman stumbled upon a chilling sight: a 6-foot, 200-pound alligator confined in a large cage. Astonishingly, this reptile had been imprisoned in the basement, Jason, for 26 years.
No.
Yes. Subsisting on a diet of raw chicken. The homeowner, Charles Price, now faced charges for the misdemeanor of unlawful possession of an endangered species. Despite his claim of providing excellent care for the ancient creature, the rescue marked the end of a decades-long captivity. Now, I do have a video. It is a video of the alligator itself and a little bit of text to music. So I'll mute the music and read some of the text. But if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, you get to see this poor guy. This alligator was finally freed after it was kept illegally. That's a picture of it there. In a private basement for 25 years. Look at that. It's a beautiful creature. Here's the pictures here of the alligator being brought out of captivity. The owner did not, of course, possess an exotic pet permit. They're putting this carrier here, and it was taken to a sanctuary in South Carolina, where it now is being taken care of, and it's being shipped off to South Carolina. So there it is, the rescue of the alligator from the home.
26 years, and it literally looked like it was just a box.
Yeah.
What would be the purpose of having that large animals? Like, I don't, and then feeding it chicken forever? What a weird
So thankfully
thing.
it got freed, and it can spend the rest of its life free, proper care. I don't think they can put it in the wild now. It'd have to be in a sanctuary.
No.
It can't survive in the wild.
I think they live quite a long time.
Yes. Yeah, 60 to 80 years. Okay, so it's still got another 30 to 50 years of life and freedom. So there you go. You go get him, alligator. You go get him. All right. So that was found in the basement, an alligator. Somebody else discovered it, of course. The other person knew about it, the captor. But all right, Jay, you got the next one.
Upon moving into their off-campus residence on 13th Avenue in Ohio, the housemates initially believed they shared the space with 10 individuals on the first floor, 2 of whom were female. However, subtle oddities, open drawers, recently used microwave, and mysterious sounds aroused suspicion that there might be more to their living situation. The revelation occurred when Brett, one of the roommates, ventured into the basement to reset a tripped circuit breaker. To his surprise, he encountered a man who identified himself as Jeremy, but remained evasive when questioned. Alarmed, the roommate conducted a thorough search of the house, but their efforts were thwarted by a locked basement door. Faced with the unsettling discovery, the landlord and law enforcement were called to intervene. Upon breaking open the basement door, they found a cache of personal items such as photos, a television, clothing. The duration of Jeremy's clandestine residence with them remained unclear.
When Mark and his roommates moved into their new place off campus, it seemed just like any other college house that needed a bit more work.
There was mold in our air conditioners, the walls and the floors were all dirty.
But after a month of living in the house off East 13th, the guys started to get the feeling that something more was wrong.
We had been telling everybody the story about the ghost in our house, coming and opening all our cupboards and the oven and the microwave and all this stuff.
They started getting even more suspicious, so Mark and his 8 housemates searched the house. Down 2 flights of stairs in their basement, they found a door. They tried opening it, but it was locked.
Behind the locked door, there was some weird noises like dings and alarms and stuff.
When their realtor finally opened the door, what they found shocked everyone. A bedroom that someone else had been living in.
No, what? You gotta be kidding me.
Inside the room, they found pictures of the guy with his friends and family. One of Mark's housemates, Brett, recognized the guy in the photos as a man he'd run into once before on their property. The house is divided into 2 separate rental spaces, so at the time, Brett just thought he was on the other lease.
He was like, oh, I was wondering when I get to meet the people that live here. And I was, oh, hey, what is your name? And he's like, oh, my name's Jeremy.
According to Brett, Jeremy was a student at Ohio State. He wasn't home when the boys finally got into the room, so the realtor left a note on his door before he evicted him.
Jeremy since moved out of the house, but he left behind some items that show he was living here, such as this mattress that he was using, and some drinks, and even food.
Jeremy had access to a bathroom in the basement and a sink that he could have used to do laundry, but the guys don't think he ever ate their food or went into their rooms.
He was a really nice guy. I feel bad for him, but it's just, he wasn't supposed to be living there.
Since Jeremy moved out, the guys have changed the locks on their doors. They just feel lucky it didn't turn out worse.
It's funny now, but it really could have been potentially extremely dangerous given some random guy had a key to our house and was just living in our house without anyone knowing.
How does a dude live in your house and you don't know it? That's so interesting.
So when I first heard the story, I was like, well, where does he go poo and pee? That's always the first thing I think of. Where? Yeah, but he had his own bathroom. So he legit had his little pad, a windowless room in this house in the basement with a locked door. So I think he literally snuck around when they went to school. And he's obviously been there before those students moved in. So this is like a student housing. So something that must have happened over the years or months where this guy maybe once lived there.
Sounds like he was an old resident, or he went to school there and somehow just goes like, hey, in between semesters when people move or go on Christmas vacation or something, I'm just gonna
somehow.
Oh,
he might have been friends with an old student from maybe 8 years ago or something, and he just stays there. And he's been living there rent free. The gig is up. I love how he still got evicted officially.
But he was a nice guy, though.
He seemed like a nice guy. When he got the eviction notice, hey, dude, you need to leave, from the realtor, he left without a fight. He seemed reasonable enough to know, like, okay, I have been stealing in the sense I'm living here rent free. I'm not contributing to the mortgage. Instead of going to jail or having the cops, he just left. So to his credit, he kind of up and left, but he stayed there as long as he could until the gig was up, but he got caught.
What I find also interesting is that nobody went to look in the basement, like, hey, let's check out our new digs.
You know how kids are. They're young kids. They're in their early 20s, late teens. They're going to school. They're living in a frat house type situation. You know what they probably thought? They probably thought it was just like one of those doors that's the landlord's equipment, supplies. It's a locked door. The door's locked.
Or a door that goes to another other side.
Yeah, it's like a hallway to the other residence. So they're not going to go through it. Like, hey, that's not our door. It's locked for a reason. This isn't our house. It's the landlord's memorabilia, I should say, of stuff or whatever. Like, who cares? They just go about their day. They're just, it's Jeremy living there. Jeremy's been there the whole time, taking a crap. He's down there taking a crap on the toilet.
Eating ramen noodles. He had a TV. Was there a TV?
Apparently, he had pictures of his family and friends there too. Like, he has little residence in it. This was his home. Bless his heart. This was his. The guys even felt bad. I like the one kid. He's a nice guy, and I kind of feel bad he got evicted, but he's not legally supposed to be here. He brought it on himself. He's not supposed to be here, so he was evicted.
Could you imagine if you thought somebody had broken into your home? Like a crossing?
Well, they met him. They bumped into him, so it was
on the outside. But could you imagine meeting him on the inside of your house?
That'd be weird. Yeah.
Hey, dude, what's up?
All right, maybe we did have a fun one still. That was a good one. That was a fun one.
That was a good laugh.
Poor Jeremy. I wonder if he saw this news story. Like,
where is he?
I don't know.
Is he in your basement?
He could be. Yeah, guys. Actually, yeah. Everyone check your basements. Check your attics. You never know. Oh, man. My attic in my house, I kid you not. This is kind of a side note here. I've heard stuff in my attic, and I'm telling you, man, at night, it's right up, like, there is an attic in our house, and I've heard noises. I'm like, okay, it's probably a raccoon or an animal, and I guess at this point, I don't want to know. It's sealed off. If there's animals living up there, I'm not going up there. What's done is done. It's whatever's existing, it's existing. I've heard things at night, and I'm like, that's something up there. It's either a ghost, which is unlikely, or it's an actual physical entity moving around up there.
Dude, if I heard that, I would not sleep one more minute. Oh, I would have to find it.
Okay. Well, if I hear it again, I'll let you know.
I couldn't handle knowing that there's something up there. If there was an animal out there, I needed out. I couldn't sleep another week.
Okay. So speaking of things, maybe creatures living in your house that you didn't want living in your house, that brings us to our next one. Royce Robbins and Shannon McFadden's move into their Colorado home took a nightmarish turn when an unexpected problem emerged from below. Snakes. What initially seemed like an isolated issue soon escalated as the weather warmed. It's transitioning from spring to summer, and snakes began making appearances through the floorboards. The situation reached a distressing peak when the couple discovered a snake nest under their deck, with hundreds of slithering and hissing reptiles infiltrating their property.
It's actually very pretty here.
A home on the plains seemed perfect.
Elizabeth is great.
No red flags from the blue house on Rushmore Street.
No, nothing at all. Everything seemed on the up and up. Everything looked fine.
Shannon McFadden and her husband moved in. First came a sleepy winter.
Hundreds of photos.
And then a creepy spring.
I've got the ones with the heads popping up between the slats of the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 garter snakes.
Harmless.
Yes. Thank goodness.
If you're cool with a snake den under your deck.
It was a surprise.
Snakes under the shed, snakes on the back door, one snake inside.
My cats had it cornered in the bathroom.
At first, the couple took the problem into their own hands.
No, I was using a stick. And then I'd fling them.
Exterminators brought more professional tools.
We removed over 150 before winter hit.
They paid for a new concrete deck and shed.
Well, so far about $8,000.
Those cheap snakes got off scot-free.
Oh, man, there was one that was like this big. I think she was pregnant. She was big around, too.
The snakes have moved out, hopefully.
A nightmare.
Shannon should know by spring if there are still snakes on the plains.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
That's actually a terrible pun, but we had to do it. Yeah, beautiful little home, beautiful little property. And so how they fixed this, if you guys weren't quite tracking with the news story, they took out the wooden deck and they built a concrete deck, obviously eliminating the chance of anything living in the concrete.
That was a lot of snakes.
They came to the home.
So it's cool to see a gardener snake when you're out for a hike. Oh,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah, yeah.
snake. Or
We used to catch them as kids.
Yeah, I know, all the time. But to see thousands coming up underneath your deck around your house, or hundreds, I don't know.
You know who's terrified of snakes? Dad. He hates snakes. He doesn't like looking at them even. I forget we were watching a movie or something. The snake came on. To him,
Indiana Jones.
There's a big snake in the plane, Chuck! Oh, that's just my pet snake, Reggie! I hate snakes, Chuck! I hate them! Come on, show a little backbone, will ya?
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. Okay, Jay, you've got the next one.
The renovation plans for an 18th century home in Ridgefield, Connecticut took a chilling turn when a homeowner stumbled upon a startling discovery beneath the basement floor: human remains. Halting the renovations, the homeowners called in archaeologists and forensic experts to investigate further, leading to the revelation of 2 additional skeletons.
Oh, speaking of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I know, archaeologists. All 3 skeletons were identified as men aged between 21 and 50, and forensic analysis indicated the bones dated back to a time long before the current occupants. The house, built in 1970, stands on the historic site of the Battle of Ridgefield, which occurred in 1777. It was concluded that these men likely met their untimely end around the same period, marking the first ever discovery of Revolutionary War era soldiers in Connecticut. That is fascinating. 1777.
Yeah. So those bones
Wow.
were, what's my math here? 250 years old. Incredible. I don't know how I feel about ghosts or spirits or hauntings, but that's legit. You're building your house on top of 4 bodies. I don't know, man. I wonder if there's any stories about that area.
And it's also interesting that you could build the home and not realize that you're on top of skeletons until later.
Yeah. They must have dug deeper maybe or something. But yeah, so I did do some research on this. There was a YouTube video on it, but it was way too lengthy to clip into the show. It was a guy who lives there in Ridgefield and talking about the find. But apparently the bodies were laid out as such that they didn't die there and they were left there. They were buried, and they were buried together in a parallel. Sad, these 4 men had died fighting in this war, and they were buried side by side by side. It could have been a father and son. The ages were 20 to 50, right? So who knows? There could have been connections there. Or a captain and a young soldier. Who knows? But the idea that, yeah, these 4 bodies were laid next to each other in a grave. It's I know, not to get all existential here, but it's just interesting how at this time when these soldiers were alive in the 1700s, this war was so important. What they were fighting for was so important. All the same, they lost their life. Then all the same, everyone that fought in that war, it's all irrelevant. Like, it's just weird how now everyone who fought in that war, whether they survived the war or not, are dead anyways because of time. The world does not care. Time does not care about your cause. Everyone who thinks they have a cause today, whether it's a political party, some sort of medical code, or whatever it might be, we're all dead regardless. Like, it's just funny how the things we seem that are so important, the things we fight for and scream at another person for, and all the Karens of the world and all this stuff, at the end of the day, we're all going to be these 1700 soldiers buried in some yard and have a house built on us. It's odd. I find the whole timeline of existence odd.
I've had similar thoughts, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I don't know what to make of it all sometimes. Of course, at the end of the day, yes, you just do the best you can with the information you have, with the life you have. I understand all that stuff, folks. I get it. I try to be a good husband, a good father, all that good stuff. I know. But at the end of the day, no matter what we do and all the things we struggle for, we're going to be a soldier buried under a house one day. Okay, the next one, another war theme, actually, but a little bit later war. Well, Jay, as you probably know, owning Nazi memorabilia is widely disapproved. Some individuals harbor, however, a fascination for the macabre and the controversial. From flags and hip flasks to army-issued Luger pistols, hiding these items can be as simple as tucking them away among your other belongings. But what about a tank? That's right, you heard me, Jay. A tank. An investigation of Heikendorf, Northern Germany, into a senior citizen's possessions revealed an astonishing find: a World War II Panther tank concealed in his basement.
Wow.
Driven by a collector's passion, he had blatantly violated regulations concerning the storage of weapons. As a consequence, he does face a hefty fine of 250,000 euros. Interestingly, the man's legal team argued that a museum in the United States had expressed interest in purchasing the tank, contending that it might represent the most appropriate utilization for such a historic military vehicle.
In July 2015, the world was stunned when the German police took possession of a strange collection of wartime relics in the basement of a house in Heikendorf near Kiel on the Baltic coast. There was an 88mm flak gun, a torpedo, and a large collection of firearms, perhaps most interestingly, a Panther tank, all in excellent condition. While searching the man's house, the police discovered his other collection in the basement and moved to seize the vehicles and weapons. The problem was, everyone locally knew about the Panther tank. How the collector had managed to acquire such a rare vehicle was not a mystery. He had personally resurrected it from the scrap pile over 40 years earlier. The Heikendorf Panther ended up in a scrapyard in Britain after being discarded by the army. In the early 1970s, the German millionaire bought the Panther when the scrapyard was being cleared and had it shipped to Germany. By the late 1970s, the Panther was back in running order and was apparently often seen being driven around Heikendorf. Also, the owner was in possession of a note from the local government issued in 2005 that stated that the Panther had been demilitarized, that is, the main gun could not fire live ammunition. But in July 2015, the Panther, other vehicles and weapons were all seized by the authorities. The Panther was sent to the German Army training area at Putlos for storage, where it remains today. In January 2017, the owner was brought to court on violations of the War Weapons Control Act and weapons standards. For now, the ultimate fate of the Heikendorf Panther has yet to be settled.
To get a tank into your basement, I was thinking the whole time, how big is this dude's house?
He's a millionaire, according to the
so
news
when
report.
they said millionaire, and well, he bought it. Seemed legit when he bought it. It seemed okay at the time. So I'm not sure if the rules change on him or what.
Probably to a degree, because it sounds like he had it up and running in the 70s. So he's probably an older gentleman at this point, obviously. He bought it as a younger guy, bought some stuff. It probably back then the rules were a little bit light or a little bit not looked into so much. So he was able to purchase his tank, get it refurbished. He even drove it around, put it in storage, and he was looking to sell it to the States. But all the same, despite that, it's still against the law in Germany. You know, they take it very seriously there, obviously, at this point regarding any Nazi stuff.
The Nazi aspect of it, of course.
But that being said, do you remember when we were kids? I think this would have been the early 80s. For a short time, we had early HBO. I don't know if you remember that. We had early HBO, which was huge back then. They had this cable TV that showed movies without commercials. One of the early movies that was on all the time, of course, this is the early days of HBO, so things repeated all the time. It's like every 5 movies a day almost, it seemed like. Well, one movie that was on all the time that I always watched over and over again was the classic James Garner film, Tank. Do you remember that movie, Tank?
No. I don't think I ever saw it, but I think I had a vague memory of the movie poster or something.
It starred James Garner. All I can remember from it as a kid was just, let me show you the trailer, Jay. This might bring back some memories of the film. Jay, as a kid, for whatever reason, I was fascinated by this film, but there's no reason why anyone should enjoy this film. But as a kid, 9-year-old Ryan, for whatever reason, I watched this film on HBO all the time. All I can remember from the film today as a 48-year-old is James Garner's character would drive this tank. He drove it through town. It was just like so out of place to have this army tank in an American town kind of causing destruction.
Sergeant Major Zach Carey was not your everyday commuter.
You're the only one in the U.S. Army who owns his own fully operational Sherman tank, for one thing. Are you kidding me? I thought everybody had one of these.
The Army was his career.
What sort of father is your dad? Cross between George Patton and Danny Thomas.
Your division sergeant major is all alone in the battalion field.
But peace was his profession.
Hey, you don't want to do that.
Is that right?
How would you like it if somebody went?
Until he got on the bad side of a sheriff who didn't have a good side.
Somebody marked up your face when you was on duty. And who was it that marked you up when you was out representing me?
I want to know everything there is to know about that, Sergeant Major.
William Carey.
Yes, sir.
This your lockup?
Yes, sir. It'd be enough to get that little boy of yours at least 2 years on the county farm, maybe 3.
I didn't do anything. Somebody else's lock was on my locker. Somebody else was
I know. The sheriff is using you to get to me.
We are getting a lawyer, and that's all there is to it.
Now they've got his son.
Not any more lawyer noise. That kid's gonna be shot trying to escape.
And they've got the odds. But he's got the tank.
Oh, Lord. I do believe I got you covered.
Told
Can I go with you? I can't stay here no more.
Jump on. Find out, Billy. I'm coming to get you.
You're crazy. You're gonna get us all killed.
Come out of that tank! Come out or I'll burn you out!
Wow.
What has to be the most
Yep.
unusual prison break in recent history, Sergeant Major Zach Carey broke his son William out of the Clemens County Correctional Facility using a World War II Sherman tank. The sergeant and his crew are rapidly becoming folk heroes.
We're not running away from the law. We're running to the law, Bill. We're gonna win.
They're gonna lose, General.
See that cracker try and stop a tank.
Zach Carey won't tread lightly on the men who took his son. Tank.
Rated PG.
Anyways,
That's amazing.
can you see why as a kid I would have enjoyed that film? So I love this trailer. What I love about this trailer, for those who, I guess we're going to show the whole thing. The idea basically, his son gets arrested by a corrupt police force. He breaks his son out of jail with the tank. He shoots up things in the town and stuff. Even though the cops are corrupt, you still can't destroy property and cause damage, run over police cars. I love how he breaks his son out of jail because he's wrongfully imprisoned. I bet you he got away with it too.
And the mother's like, we're going to get a lawyer. He's like, no, we're not. We're going to go get a tank. We're going to make things... we're gonna make things 1,000 times worse than they already are.
I love the
How is this a
80s
solution?
I also love the trailer. Basically showed the whole movie.
And they become folk heroes. The town's like cheering for them. And I like this the sound of the tank. Pew! it's like a rocket coming out of the tank, but the sound is pew.
That might be one worth watching again. I love that. All right. So as a kid, Jay, I saw that movie more times than Star Wars by the age of 10. I don't know why I watched that.
And nothing against James Garner, but he does not look convincing in this role. There's like, you're not Stallone.
I know.
I'm not
This is
convinced
1984. This is 84. So this is James Garner's First Blood type performance. Yeah.
Not convinced.
But he has that James Garner type, Maverick wink at the camera type. That's his. He's a little. He's a good guy with a little bit of a bad streak in him. A little bit of a rebel. in him. Love it. Maybe that German guy was holding on to his tank just in case he had to break one of his relatives out of jail. Maybe that's why he held on to it. All right, you've got the next one.
Yeah. The allure of secret religious sects often lies in their mysterious practices, invoking a sense of fear for those on the outside. This mystique extends to their places of worship, which, when abandoned, can take on a terrifying aura. Pat and Diane Farla stumbled upon one such chilling discovery as they explored the nooks and crannies of their 170-year-old house steeped in history. The unexpected find? An abandoned chapel concealed beneath a metal grid in their basement.
A few drinks and a little idle curiosity back in 2010 led to the discovery of a hidden chapel under a family home. The Farla family were having a celebration on Good Friday when they decided to check out a metal grid in their Telford home in Shropshire, England. 3 years after Pat and Diane Farla moved into the detached Victorian building, they became curious what lay behind a meter-long rectangle which lay alongside a wall. After pulling it away, they found a hole which was just big enough for someone to squeeze through. And as they found themselves in a small, eerie cellar, which appears to look like a chapel, it had a cross and what appeared to be a podium, signifying it was used as a worship center.
That's the photo of the actual site, which I found interesting. There's the little chapel they found underneath their home. Look at that, though. There's that cross that might have fallen off the wall onto the floor, but it's on the floor. A little seating bench there, podium/altar of some sort of sacrificial altar, maybe. Look at the walls. This is under their house.
This does not look like a chapel. This looks like a place where people do some really bad sacrifices. Come on.
Well,
chapel for Satan? Come on.
Chapel for Satan. I always say, come to our YouTube channel, guys. I always provide the links in the shows. If you at least want to see the pictures that we're talking about, it's hard to describe, but it's all concrete. Of course, it's underground. Someone built this. Somebody used it for something at some point. And that's what I find fascinating. Let's continue the story.
To worship. In the center of the room lay a wooden cross which appeared to have fallen down after rotting away. Matthew said, "We only discovered it because we were drunkenly fooling around and decided to have a look at what was beneath the grid. It was amazing. Everyone was hovering around with excitement. The first thing we came across in the middle of the basement was an old open chest, and in it were old newspapers and bottles dating back to the 1930s. There were also some hooks hanging from the ceiling, which could have been used to hang meat. There were also some sort of brick seats around the walls, which looked like something you might find in a church. The surprises continued as exploration went on, and someone spotted some stairs at the back of the basement. When we spotted the stairs in the room, we tried to find out where they led to. There was more cardboard, and we broke through that and came out in a cupboard in our dining room. It's strange it's been here, and we had no idea. We're not sure what the room was used for, but the crosses and layout suggest it may have been a chapel. The Farless said the deeds in the detached home dated from 230 years ago, and they believe that at some point it may have been used as a pub. Historical documents expert from nearby said, if the deeds are over 230 years old and the room dates back to the 1700s, there's a chance it could have been used as a Catholic hideaway or for other nonconformist religious groups. There's a possibility a room like that could have been used as a clandestine Catholic church, as you couldn't be Catholic during that time. You would be persecuted and executed.
So that's an interesting theory, too, that it was built so long ago. I guess the Catholic religion was outlawed in that area. It could have been a secret underground Catholic church, which kind of makes more sense with the cross and the altar, and maybe that's where they had their sacrament. Imagine finding that old chapel in your basement, Jay.
That's a crazy find, man.
I would almost want to restore it to some degree, have the ultimate like chapel man cave. Think about that. You could kind of make something out of that if you think about it.
I wonder if at some point it turned into a place for, like, if they found alcohol in there, like, did people do moonshine in there, or like hide out when
combination
alcohol?
Of everything, yeah.
The fact that there's hooks in there, I wonder what the hooks were for. Hanging meat? What about hanging people?
Well, people are meat.
That room did not look very inviting. Like, if I say, hey, you want to go to church? I'd be like, no.
What's with the hooks? I want to hang around for a bit. No, I'm good. When I see these old stuff, I wish there was a way we could somehow. So when we drive across Canada, we've done it a couple of times for our family move, but you've done this too when you travel, Jay. You've driven across the States. And when you see old dilapidated buildings, I always think to myself, there was a time there was just land here. Then there was a time that someone said, hey, we must build this here. And they build that there. And then the humans then use that building for the purpose of the reason why it was built, right? So there was a time that there was peak activity in the building that was built. There was a time that this building will always be here, and we're always going to do the thing that we're doing here, whether it's a house, store. There's a peak. And then it dwindles, then it stops, then it gets abandoned, and then it caves in on itself. I find all of that fascinating. So regarding all that thought process, this chapel, there was just land there by nature. Then the humans said, we must build this thing here for this purpose. Then that purpose had a peak activity, and then it ended, and then it was abandoned. I always wonder who was the last person to leave said unit and say, well, I guess we're done.
Or they didn't know that they're walking out of the chapel for we're never going to,
we're never going to come back. There will be no human that will come back to this facility for the purpose for which it was built. There's always that last visit where I came to this building because it's a store. I bought something and left. And there's the last customer. And then the last cash out. I just find all the last and the first and the peak stuff of these dilapidated, abandoned stuff fascinating. There's history there.
Yeah, like when you see houses and they're abandoned, right? They're boarded up. There used to be birthdays in there.
Yeah, birthdays, Christmases.
And hey, there's an Easter egg hunt, and everybody's like actually wanting to participate, and we're having fun.
I know. Now
happy birthday to and then and again, it's like those soldiers that were laid to rest.
Yeah.
None of that activity really matters anymore.
Now it doesn't matter. I know all the family birthdays and Thanksgivings and those homes that are now
all the purpose built up into those
and the mortgages that were paid and the sweat and tears to build it and the joy. The young husband and wife built their first home. Gone. It's all gone. Where are they? What are they doing right now? I get existential in this stuff. I can't help it. It's just weird to me. Okay. Last one, Jay. So this was kind of a fun one. I think I remember when this happened. I think I saw this video. So let's just play the video because I think I saw this video when it made the news.
Bears on an eating spree and in search of a cozy space to weather the winter.
Let's find out more and more, though. They're making your home their home.
Yeah, guys, we caught up with the head of the Bear League earlier this evening, who tells us she has lost count of all the phone calls of bears prowling around properties in Lake Tahoe for food and a winter den. She says if homeowners don't act fast, they could soon end up with a furry 400-pound roommate.
After scouting out this snug and safe spot to ride out winter, this big guy is getting the boot.
Okay, blast him.
Over the last few weeks, the Bear League has had to remove dozens of these curious carnivores from crawl spaces all around Lake Tahoe.
It's only going to get worse. The bears are scouting out den sites. A lot of these furry ones have figured out that it's really comfortable and cozy and nice under people's houses.
That's because hyperphagia is in full swing. It's a phase when bears pack on the pounds ahead of hibernation.
They have to put on about 25 to 30,000 calories a day. And it's much easier to get that out of somebody's refrigerator than to go pick a single berry at a time. They've learned to take advantage of our presence.
But in that quest for calories and vacancy signs, the executive director of the Bear League says the massive mammals can make a big old mess.
They crawl in, they rearrange it a little bit. Sometimes they knock a few pipes down, take the insulation off of the ductwork.
The Bear League encourages homeowners to secure crawl spaces, lock cars and windows, clear bird feeders, and make sure trash is properly stored so you don't inadvertently make your house an open invitation for a bear's winter nap. Last winter, the Bear League moved nearly 100 bears from homes in the Tahoe and Truckee areas. It's always better, of course, to leave it to the experts than take your chances with a wild animal.
That one bear crawling out of the guy's crawl space there.
That thing was huge.
Scary. I'm surprised they stood that close filming this thing coming out. I'd be backed up a little bit. Well, they were experts too. They were ready with the blast horn, so they've done this before. They come out and they blast them. Boom, boom.
That was weird. Blast them. As they wait for him to shoot, I think he's going to shoot them. It's like, blast them. The bear's already walking away.
They might get curious and turn around. They have to.
Yeah.
But so you find a bear in your basement. That would be weird. This whole time you've gone to bed every night, unbeknownst to you, you had a bear living beneath you when you're walking around the kitchen doing your chores. There's a bear in your basement.
Where I used to live, it's fairly wilderness, and a lady down a block or two away, she had a den of a bear den in the back of her property, and she didn't know, and she startled it, and she got mauled actually.
Oh wow! So there you go. Leave it to the experts. Leave it to the Bear League. Call the Bear League.
She surprised it, and she didn't realize it had made a home there over the winter.
Oh wow!
So it is a real thing. Not in her home, but on her property, and she didn't realize it, and got startled, and she got mauled. She survived. I don't think it was life-altering injuries, but nonetheless terrifying.
Oh man! All right, so there you go, folks. There is our 9 things that people have discovered in their basement, Jason. So these are 9 things. You have to discover 8 of them. What is one that you could do without? Of these 9 that you would not want to personally find in your basement?
I'm going to have to say the alligator. I feel bad about that story. I mean, all the other ones are kind of just happenstances and stuff. Or I guess like your dad, finding your dad crushed skull. I forgot about that one. I suppose your dad.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with that too. Because if we were the sons, that would be, that's the most heartbreaking story. I feel bad for the alligator, but it has a good life.
No, I kind of forgot about the dad.
It has another 50 or 60 years ahead of itself, so the alligator will be fine. But yeah, discovering your dad in your house, that's pretty, I think it's the worst one.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks everyone who joined us. Again, send us an email if you'd like to be a part of the show or give us something to rate and review and then give our worst pick on, or just let us know what you think of the show. Like and subscribe. That's free as well to do, whether it's on our YouTube channel or on your podcast app of choice. When you leave us a comment or review or star rating, that helps us out grow our little podcast. We do appreciate those who do listen every week. Remember, in front of every silver lining, there's a cloud. And today, it was our father's bones in our house in the basement.